Hey guys, welcome to Bro Talk. Welcome to another episode on this book, The 48 Laws of Power. Today we'll be going to two chapters, chapters 3 and 4, which will be talking about conceal your intentions and always say less than necessary. So please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this video and join in our conversation. Well, chapter 3, or let's consider law number 3, right?
Yeah.
Conceal your intentions, which is it's a long chapter. Well,
Yeah, it was long.
for me, it was long. I'm not, I struggle a little bit with reading, but Law 3 was definitely a long chapter. It talked about a lot of interesting stories, but it says conceal your intentions.
Hmm.
Let me read the judgment because I found the judgment to be spectacular. It says, keep people off balance and in the dark by never revealing the purpose behind your actions. If they have no clue what you are up to, they cannot prepare a defense.
Mm.
Guide them far enough down the wrong path, envelop them in enough smoke, and by the time they realize your intentions, it will be too late. Interestingly enough, there's two parts to this chapter, which is
Mm.
interesting, right?
Yes.
One talks about how to throw people off through red herrings and stuff like that, and then the other one
Hmm.
is to like apply smoke, which is
A
like
smoke screen. Yeah.
a smoke screen, which is like to cover your intentions on what you could potentially do, right?
Correct.
Um, but every time I'm reading this book, I I find it so evil but so good at the same time
Nice. So you're evil? I'm just
because
kidding.
I mean maybe it is the way the author wrote it, because it says if they have no clue what you are up to, they cannot prepare a defense.
Mm.
Like it's telling you to trick them in a sense, right?
Correct.
But one point that I did like at the beginning of this chapter was um, right above where it says use decoyed objects of desire and red herrings to throw people off the sense. And
Yes.
it's just interestingly enough, in one of our previous episodes, we did talk about a lot about logical fallacies, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
here,
Episodes ago. Yeah.
right, episodes ago, and here it is talking about to use a logical fallacy. So, if I'm not wrong, correct?
So you're close. So yeah, there
Because
you yeah, go ahead and then I'll go.
because a red herring is to like mislead someone in an argument using something that is not relevant to the main argument that you guys are talking about, which could be seen as like a distraction.
Hmm. So
And if you do that, you could, in a sense, conceal by using a distraction. You can conceal an intention. Or am I wrong? Let me turn this off. Sorry.
I don't think the author Robert Greene is talking about, because you're right, there is a logical fallacy called the red herring fallacy. There is,
Hmm.
yes, but he's not really saying to use a logical fallacy to trick people. He's just talking about an actual red herring. Red herring is not just a logical fallacy. A red herring, as you mentioned, is like it could be an object or a thing or a word or something that distracts someone else, or it's something that has nothing to do with what we're actually looking at. Like in medicine, right? Sometimes,
Hmm. No.
right?
Hmm.
If you're trying to look for something, but let's say the X-ray or the MRI shows you something else that has nothing to do with the diagnosis the doctor's trying to find, that random thing is called a red herring. It's something completely different that has nothing to do with this. And doctors have to be very careful not to fall for the red herring where they see something and they might use it to try to rationalize to the diagnosis. So he's not talking about the actual logical fallacy,
Well,
but he is,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, you're 100% right. He is not talking about the logical fallacy.
Yes.
I referred it to the logical fallacy because it it is when you use like something misleading, a red
Mhm,
herring fallacy.
mhm,
And I guess you're right in a sense where you could use not herring, sorry, you could use a red herring
mhm,
objectively through words, through pictures. You could use a red herring in many ways, right?
mhm.
Like for example, you used to use a lot red herring when it came to your magic tricks,
Yes, that is very true.
where
That's very
you
true.
where you
Yes.
would cause a lot of distraction, where your
Mhm,
intent on doing something was to like accomplish obviously like the goal of magic, but
Yes.
you did that through distraction in a sense.
Correct. That's
A
correct.
lot of
Yes.
it, not everything, but a lot of it was like through
Yes.
distraction.
True.
So that's basically what I was trying to say. Sorry, but no, but you're 100% right. And at the beginning of the chapter, they talked about a very interesting story. I don't know if you remember. It was talking about the Ninon de Lenclos,
Mm-hmm.
which was a very famous woman in France because she knew about a lot about like the
Seduction.
seduction side
Mm-hmm.
of women, right? I mean, of men too, in a sense, but this story basically talks about a guy that was in love with a girl, wanted to show her around or wanted to be her lover in a sense, and but he was struggling. So and then she gave him a lot of help in a sense on what to do to be able to get her in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the ways that she told him to do it was to conceal his intentions in a sense, where don't make it too obvious, start doing other stuff. Because all this, it says in the book, all this emotional confusion would push her into like some successful seduction, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what he had to do was to like hang out with other women, and that would confuse her in a sense, but also show that he is desired by other women.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, this isn't the observation of the law, this is the transgression of it. We can see how he fucked up towards
Mm-hmm.
the end in a way where like when he was all alone with her, he started to reveal his intentions to her, and that confusion, that in a sense, not anxiety, but when you know when you have that like what would be the word? I know wrote it in here, but that wants for a person, that desire for a person kind of went down once he revealed his intentions instead of concealing. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if there was something that you liked about that story or.
Um, Not really. I mean, I definitely see where the author was going with the story.
Hmm.
But like on page 18, where it says interpretation, where it's interpretation of the story,
Hmm.
there's a section here that says, for example, and it's talking about specifically about seduction. Of course, this law can apply to many parts: job interviews, dating, marriages, friendships, your social circle, which I'll get
Hmm.
to later. But for example, in the interpretation of page 18, the second to last paragraph, it mentions everything in seduction, however, depends on suggestion. You cannot announce your intentions or reveal them directly into words. Instead, you must throw your targets off the scent. To surrender to your guidance, they must be appropriately confused. You scramble your signals, appear interested in another man or woman, the decoy, then hint at being interested in the target, then feign indifference, and so on. Such patterns not only confuse, but they excite. So, from the story and from the interpretation of what Robert Greene
Like
is
the
writing
story.
in Law
Uh-huh.
3, right? When I hear this, when I read the story and I read the interpretation, right? What I'm getting from it, and I mentioned in the last episode where at first glance, initially, when you read this book, for me personally, I feel like this only applies to like presidents or like prime ministers or people that are in corporate, like big stuff. But
Hmm.
it's true, you could apply this to a lot of more quote unquote normal situations. When it comes to dating, it is true. In the beginning of dating, if you're too open and you say, "Hey, listen, I love you," and hey, I want to take you out
Right.
on 3 dates, and then I want to make out with you, and then I want to take you to my house, and you're too
Hmm.
upfront about this stuff, it kills completely the game, and the other person's not going to be interested most of the time because like, hey, there's no back and forth, there's no seduction, there's no interest, there's no mystery, right? So
Right. This. Sorry to interrupt. Sorry.
no, say what you want to say.
No, I was just gonna say this applies to real life. This is like this is game right here, right? Um, because this is like in a sense the art of love, where like to keep someone intrigued in you, or predominantly, not that it doesn't work vice versa, but predominantly a woman, you have to have some type of mystery.
Mhm.
And I
You.
mean, like you've even taught me this.
Mhm.
Um,
I'm just kidding.
I don't want to give an example, but I just reading these stories just brought a lot of like when you reminisce on the past and on certain stuff because it just feels like I don't know if I'm wrong or not. I don't know if it's like a lover boy method type
Mhm.
concealing your intention, but you know, still trying to gain you in a sense.
Well, we definitely do want to avoid lover boy methods and all that stuff. That is illegal and manipulative in a bad way,
Well, yes,
right?
but it seems like some type of manipulation going on here indirectly.
That's correct. Yes. Um, yes, that is correct. But we can apply this method indirectly or directly in a more moral way or more understandable way versus a more non-moral way, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, maybe the lover boy method is definitely using this. You're concealing your intentions and you're luring the person in, right? Now, the way I would look at how to use this in a not in a moral way or in a more normal situation is like, for example, I don't know. Let me think of a situation. Like, for example, let's pretend that there's a girl named Lisa, and she has three roommates, and she's living in this apartment. But she's tired of living with roommates, and she wants to live alone somewhere else. And she found this perfect apartment. She found it, but there's so much more people that want it. So she goes to the landlord. Right now, she starts using law three, concealing her intentions. Her intention is that she wants that apartment badly.
Uh-huh.
She wants to get out of that other apartment. But if you go and start to negotiate with the landlord, say, listen, I need this apartment so badly. Please, 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 just give it to me. Just give it to me. She's not concealing her intentions. She looks desperate. It scares the landlord. The landlord now may have a power dynamic leverage. He may have leverage. And he's like, okay, well, if you really want it, you got to pay triple price now or double the price, right? Right. But if she stays cool, conceals her intentions, and she's like, listen, I'm looking at different units. I'm interested, and she starts asking questions about the apartment, about the neighborhood. And she's like, listen, but I'm looking at other apartments,
Mm-hmm.
and he likes her. Now she's flipped the leverage, the dynamic, and now she has leverage. And how did she do it? Probably she concealed her intentions. And now, when usually the landlord has the leverage, now the tenant, this woman has the leverage, and she might get a better price. He might say, listen, if you sign today, I'll give you a discount. And now guess what? She probably won now because she got the better deal. So that is a
Right.
more of
And
a moral, normal way of using, let's say, this. But you're right, you could definitely use this for bad stuff, 100%. So yeah.
of course, and you could use it for good stuff. You could use it for bad stuff. Any trait. I
Yes.
didn't mean to say the lover boy method is what is discussed here, right? Because
No. Yeah.
everything is seen as a lover boy method is seen more uh, as a negative thing, obviously, because you're like manipulating someone psychologically and physically to get to an objective that is malicious.
Correct.
But here it's just interesting because it tells you to where it says then such patterns not only confuse, they excite, right?
Where are you
And
reading
if
this?
I'm reading, okay, so go to
Page
page
18. Gotcha.
18,
I see it. The
last
second.
paragraph, the second to last, but now we're going to move on to last paragraph because it talks about how this game, the game delighted her, it intrigued her, right? Because she
Yes.
she was seeing differences or patterns on stuff. Oh, he's not paying attention to me, he's with other women and stuff like that. But it also says because she enjoyed her jealousy and confusion, for sometimes any emotion is better than boredom of security, right?
Hmm.
So this excited her, didn't keep her bored. Now the following line is very interesting. It says, perhaps 𝗕marchus has had ulterior motives. Most men do. That's debatable. But but she was willing to wait and see, and probably if she had been made to wait long enough, what he was up to would not have mattered.
Correct.
So regardless if he had good or bad motives, if he would have played the game long enough, those motives would have not mattered because she would have gave in a sense. Or am
Yes.
I interpreting this wrong?
No, I mean you're reading this well. Yeah, of course. When it comes to dating and seduction, if you're trying to interest the opposite sex, right, or someone that you're attracted to or interested to, of course you got to keep. There has to be mystery because we, as our psyche as humans, we like mystery. We like the game. We like the chase. I definitely think there is a toxic side to that. But just putting toxicity to a side, this is definitely true. Yes, when you conceal your intentions, you can continue that game, that mouse and cat, or like that seduction game going, and it's fun, and the dating, and it's intriguing. But eventually, that leads to other deeper things. But you need that seduction or that game, which it makes sense.
Right. There's a toxicity part of things, and like this could lead to bad and good, I guess, depending on what your
Yes.
intentions are, where you conceal them, but at the same time, what really are the intentions, right? Because at the end
Yes.
of the day, there needs to be some type of communication, there needs to be some type of clarification on, in a sense, what this is or what is going to lead up to, things like that.
Mhm.
Therefore, at first there was mystery, but and then there needs to be clarification.
Yeah, 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 100%. Yeah. hmm And I
Gotcha.
think
Okay.
this is pretty important to talk about because, again, this book, I really do think it's because the way it's written. And again, I think the writer just did it that way to make it very intriguing and fun to read, right?
Right, of course. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But this chapter I feel is very important because many people would say at a superficial read, they'll say, no, I would never hide my intentions at all. And I'm an open book. I'm an open book. And
What you
for
talking
example,
about?
he talks on page 20, the last paragraph,
Yeah,
keys to
just
power, right?
remember, most people are open book.
So he says, most people are open books, which is true. I wouldn't say everyone, but a lot. He says, they say what they feel, blurt out their opinions, and constantly reveal their plans and intentions. And then he goes over a lot different reasons why people do this, which is actually, this is normal. People want to share things, people want to talk about what they're doing, right? Now, he says that actually
He
your
talked about
honesty,
honesty. Yeah,
your
yeah, yeah.
honesty or being open about everything can sometimes offend people, which is true, right? Or what it might do, it might make people not see you as powerful. Then maybe they won't respect you. Again, there's actually a lot of flaws to always showing your intentions, maybe initially or overall in like in the
Which is
beginning, right?
crazy. Uh-huh.
And I remember when I was reading this, I remember when I took a sociology class when I was at undergraduate, there was something I learned called, I wrote it down, called the social penetration theory, where it's human connection grows in layers, right? Where human connection grows in layers, and if you flood people with too much information, or you're too honest, or you're too upfront with them in the beginning, it scares people away and it creates discomfort. So already psychologically, we as humans, if you tell me too much in the beginning, or you open up too much, or you share too much, I'm gonna think suspicious of you, even though you're being honest, right? So also there are many situations in life where in the beginning, if you show your true intentions, you will lose and you're not gonna get what you want. Either a job interview or dating or in other forms, or even just in your social circle. If you're too upfront, it creates competition, jealousy, doubt, and you might not finish your goal. This is actually something my dad talks about. I just don't think I don't think he's read this book, but he always talks about whatever you're doing, don't talk about it because it makes other people jealous, doubt
It's
you,
true.
competition. Do it once you're about to be done or you're finished already. So yeah.
It's true, or maybe tell them, but don't tell them too much, in a sense where like, yeah, I just have this idea, in a sense. But you're basically telling me move in silence. Or like that's kind of like,
Well, that's what he's
which,
saying. Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Right, exactly. Which I find it crazy how, because being honest could be a good thing in certain situations, but it can also be a bad thing in other situations where you might not want to reveal too much about about yourself,
Yes.
maybe your intention as well, and just maybe be a little bit more subtle, which is why these two chapters connect really well, because I'm not, I don't want to jump into the next one yet, but
Mm.
talks about how speak less and speak less, don't say a lot, right?
Correct.
So, um, it also it says me don't bash up and make it predictable. It says because honesty
Where are you
more
reading?
important. I'm reading the keys of power, the same paragraph you're reading. It says by being um unabashedly open, you make yourself so predictable and familiar it is almost impossible to respect or fear you. Therefore, I guess the power not accrue to a person who can inspire such emotions,
Mm-hmm.
which is interesting because you would hope that you being transparent with people, they could, get to the point to respect you. But even then, um, doesn't always work that way, huh?
Not so he says it doesn't always work that way. And if you read the next paragraph,
Okay.
page 21, the first paragraph, it says if you yearn for power, so I think it's being more specific. If you want to be someone who's powerful, you got to quickly lay honesty to a side and train
Which is
yourself
a
in the art of concealing your intentions.
okay.
Page 21, first
Yeah.
paragraph. Master the art, you will always have the upper hand. Basic to an ability to conceal one intention is a simple truth about human nature. Now, the following thing he says is a fascinating truth that I forgot about. But before we go there, yes, there are many times where being honest, just being like in normal conversations, where honesty can make things worse. Yeah, you might feel better, and again, I'm not here to tell you what to do or not. I'm not a pastor or a rabbi or anything like that, right? We're not talking about morality. We're just talking about a little bit about reality. Sometimes you might want to be honest because you want your conscience to be free and not guilty, and you want to feel
Yes.
better. But a lot of the times, you being honest to the person about the situation or something that happened will make them feel worse, and maybe you'll break a friendship or you'll break something, and it doesn't make it better.
Right. So like that's interesting that you say that, right? Because putting the moral things to the side, putting the religious things to the side,
Mm-hmm.
you can argue that sometimes it is good not to necessarily be honest at the moment, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe say the truth at the moment, or say the complete truth,
Mm-hmm.
right? I guess it is very circumstantial, but there are times, depending on the friendship or relationship they are in, that maybe it can be acceptable. And I am not saying it is. I'm just, we're
Yeah, you're
arguing.
hypothetical. You're hypothetical.
Hypothetically speaking, I would never do this. But it is it is okay in a sense, depending on the situation. So I don't want to say it's okay to lie, but it's okay to not necessarily say the whole truth because you could potentially affect someone's emotions or change the outcome of something, especially you knowing that person personally. Therefore, maybe save it for another time.
This gets very into the weeds, and what you're really talking about is the study of ethics, right?
Yeah, I'm
Like,
like
what
picking
is
hairs
ethic?
right now.
It's like what's ethical or not, and there's people who have degrees in ethics. You can get a master's in the study of ethics, like what's ethical or not, and how do you know? There's different
Right.
philosophies on what is ethical and what to do or when to lie or when not to lie. Because you're right. Again, I don't think you and
Because
I are. I don't think we're saying what to do. I'm just saying what the
yeah,
reality is sometimes.
right, exactly. We're not advising anybody here what to do. We're just saying that there's the option, right?
Correct.
That exists that if you potentially want a different outcome on a situation that could fall into your hands or you could play your cards better, this would be a way of doing it.
Potentially, yes, potentially. That's correct.
Potentially.
Potentially, that's correct. Again, this is very, very like in the weed. But from what the book is saying, that is what he's saying. He's
Yeah, yeah,
saying
yeah.
if you're
This is
trying,
not this is not our words, guys. This is the book's words.
and this is just our interpretation. This is what we're just
Yeah.
talking, right? But it's like he's saying if you're trying to be, I don't know, build power, like a CEO or a president or something,
Yeah.
right? Because it's like, especially like in politics, there's so many factors and people and different organizations, people are trying to beat you in competition, you have to play your cards better or be more concealed, say less, see what the other person is doing, plan ahead. And these laws are just teaching that. But again, we can't condense this into real life situations. And what's fascinating is on page 21,
Okay.
he's like he says in the first paragraph, he says, basic to an ability to conceal your intention is a simple truth about human nature. This is, I think, one of the best things he wrote in this chapter.
Okay.
Our first instinct is to always trust appearances because we cannot go around as humans doubting the reality of what we see and hear, constantly imagining that appearances concealed, something else would exhaust and terrify us. Basically, and this is so true, we as humans, we like to trust people's appearances
Yeah.
because if we would go around just looking at people and say, oh, this guy looks so fishy, this person too, our minds would blow up.
Yeah, we
We'd
would.
be so stressed and scared of everyone.
Yeah.
But because human nature, it's hard for us to concentrate on many things and many people at the same time, and we want to trust people, already part of our psychology, right? Applying this tactic of being less honest and concealing your intention is already much easier, because if you look at least decent, and I'm not talking about like good looking, like just look decent and clean, and you know what to say, then people more likely than not are going to trust you, because they want to trust you, because they don't want to be in a fight or flight mindset where it's like, I'm scared of Aaron, I'm scared of Aurud, I'm scared of this person. They want to trust you because it makes life easier for them mentally. It's like kind of quote unquote a heuristic, like a mental shortcut, so they can feel better, right? So you hiding your intention makes
Hmm.
life easier for other people as well. I just think that that's fascinating.
No, yeah, yeah. That is fascinating. It makes life easier for people as well, in a
Mm-hmm.
sense. That's true. I wanted to know actually
Yeah, tell
what you
me.
think about. It's actually it follows up right there, not in the same paragraph, in the following paragraph.
Which page? 21,
It's
right?
page 21,
Okay, go.
where it says that a tactic is often effective setting up a red herring, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it follows up with the next line. Most people will believe you have experienced a change of heart since it's so unusual to play so lightly with something as emotional as one's opinions and values.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So it's
I
basically
agree.
telling you to like use this is like I don't know if this would be like a decoy in a sense
It
where
is.
like something so profound as your values and your feelings,
Mm-hmm.
your opinions on things, if you happen to change it, either way, that is not the truth because you're concealing your intention. So, quote unquote, you are lying. It's an effective way to have people believe what you're saying just because this is something usually people don't play around with. Or is this something usually people don't change their perspective or their mind on?
Usually, or it's much harder to
Yeah,
do so. Is that what you're
right.
saying? So what's the
Yeah.
question? So what's the question?
I don't know. I feel like this is so manipulative and it falls in quote unquote in line. It just doesn't it's not saying it.
Yes. So I definitely think a lot of politicians will use this, and politics that there's a lot of lying, right? Now
because
there
because
is a way to do this without lying, though. There is.
because this is all these laws I'm pretty sure connect to one another
Yes, I think so. Yes.
in a sense because like it says don't outshine the master like the one we did previously
Yeah. Yeah.
and this could be one way to not outshine your master in a sense where you conceal your intention where you are constantly making sure you don't outshine him and all the glory goes to him in a sense
Yes.
but maybe your real intention is for the glory to come to you
Correct. That's that. Yes.
but
100%.
you're
That's
putting a
possible.
decoy as a distraction in a sense where you're setting something up just for him um or maybe you um are outspoken or publicly say something that isn't so common or it's a change of heart therefore, like you're concealing your intention, you could cause everyone like in the crowd to feel for you in a sense.
Okay. Yeah.
So all this is like manipulation, but lying at the same time. So that was more of my question. Wait, doesn't it fall in that
Uh,
without saying?
I
But I know,
mean,
but I do want to hear what you have to say about how it can without um lying or being manipulative.
yeah. So, for example, I wrote down an example here on the thing
Okay.
here. For example, for example, the way that this can be used, for example, in a non-line situation, or less, or at least in a less line situation, is, for example, let's say someone expresses initial support for a certain idea. Let's say the idea is like, hey, the company's like, hey, we want to build a dog park near these businesses. Let's say, right now, let's say you don't really want that, or that's not exactly what you want. Like you rather have the dog park somewhere else, right? So, but what according to this paragraph, what you would do is you would first express initial support, right? And you'd be like, "Oh, that's great. I would love a new dog park. It could bring so much more people, and it'll bring the community closer. The dogs have a place to run, and it could bring more family unit. Whatever. I'm making stuff up at the top of my head, right? So you first express initial support. Number two, according to this paragraph, then you could like introduce like a concern. Say, listen, I'm all for this park, but if we build this park right next to these businesses, wouldn't this new park take away all the parking spots for the business owners and the people that work for this business, so there could be more traffic and there could be more problems, can't there? So you bring up a concern. And the third one is like, let's say you ask questions and you give alternatives, right? So you bring up the concern and now you start asking questions about the scenario, and then you can even give an alternative like, hey, but maybe instead of building it there, what if we built the park 4 blocks down? Or like, what if we did this or that? Now, maybe your original intention was like, hey, I don't want the park there. I actually want it somewhere else further down the block because it'll be better for me for whatever reason. But you first gave initial support. So, and people's eyes like, oh, he
Mm,
supports it. Number two, we brought up a concern, a good concern that might have people thinking. You ask questions about everything, and then you give an alternative. Now, maybe if your alternative is considered, what did you just do it on? Number one, you influenced the conversation. Number two, you delayed the original plan, or maybe it got rejected completely because of what you said. And number three, you softened or you maybe changed the outcome. Maybe not completely, but maybe you got kind of a compromise of something halfway, something that you wanted. And in a way, because maybe a new dog park is a good idea, and you like the idea of a new dog park because of all the benefits in society or for the people. Maybe you just don't like it right there where they're going to build it. You want it somewhere else. So you could
because
use
maybe
this,
it serves you
right?
as a benefit.
Correct. So you use what he said in this paragraph to kind of get your outcome, or kind of, right? But of course, does this fall under manipulation? 100%. And what's fascinating here is that he's talking about like emotional hooks when it comes to
Yeah.
religion, to maybe politics. There's a lot more emotions in those belief systems. So he's saying if you show the audience or the public that you change on a certain political, again, he doesn't use political or sex, I'm just giving an
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
example.
yeah.
But if you change something political, or something about religion, or something that's taboo or more emotional, and people see that, they're gonna believe you. They're like, oh, this person became a Democrat. This person became a Republican. Oh, okay, he's a Christian now because this is he believes this, right? So their guards are down, but in reality, maybe your intention is something else. But maybe you were willing to compromise on a certain point to bring everyone's guards down, and now that everyone's guard is down, you can now kind of put what you want into play, because no one's
Right.
going to attack you directly because something so emotional or so important for people, you showed publicly that you changed it. But maybe for you that wasn't such a big point, or it was more of a secondary or tertiary point.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Do
yeah,
you see
yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah, no, no, you're explaining it in a great way. It's not the primary. It's not your primary concern. It's not the primary reason you might be doing something. It either falls secondary or even third. but it is something you still want to accomplish. Therefore, you find ways to accomplish it through probably decoy, either through emotion
Mm-hmm.
of changing your mind on something, or proposing a solution on a problem you probably brought up
Yes.
that therefore you are still showing that you are willing to do something regardless of you being the person in a sense to bring up the problem or concern of something, but at the same time you're still showing you want it to happen by proposing a solution, therefore potentially convincing others to agree with you. Because this person that, I'm just going to use your example, that wants to create the dog park here but doesn't want to here, wants it over there, maybe is proposing that because he doesn't want a dog park at all, meaning
Potentially,
that he
potentially, yes.
understands that, yeah, there's an option to do it over there, but I already know ahead of time that there's no way in hell we could do it over there because um this land is already owned in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
or that it's my property, but I own it
Mm-hmm.
anonymously in a sense, right?
Correct.
And I won't permit it. But I'm giving this group of people the option to move it over here, but I know it's not gonna succeed. While
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to distract, while I'm able to do that distraction, I'm able still to maintain this area without a dog park because I might want to purchase this property in the future,
But
in a
yeah,
sense.
can someone go into the conversation and be like, "Hey, I don't want the dog park at all, but I'm gonna play along with this, and I'm gonna use these tactics to either get a compromise or to get no dog park at all for whatever reason." Yes, it's definitely possible. Yeah, and I think
Mhm.
that's what he would say. Yes, the author.
Um, and I would relate that same example that I just added to yours, um, to where did I read this? It
Mm-hmm.
says right here,
Which page?
same page 21, going down, I think the second to last paragraph. Um,
Yeah, I see it. Which is hide your intentions.
no, it says use this tactic in the following manner: hide your intentions not by closing up with the risk of appearing secretive and making people suspicious, but by talking endlessly about your desires and goals, not just for just not your real ones. You will kill three birds with one stone. You appear friendly, which is very key, right? You
Mm-hmm.
appear friendly, open, and trusting, but you're concealing your intentions and you send your rivals on a time-consuming wild goose chases. It's like
Correct.
if I'm using that same example of I'm the owner of this land, but I want to purchase this, and the only way to move or to not get this dog park in a sense in this property
Mm-hmm.
is to propose to move it over there. But there's already a group of people, and let's say I didn't start this group of people, I could join it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you could join the enemy in a sense and
Mm-hmm.
convince them to do something otherwise because of a certain knowledge that you might know.
Yes.
But you are basically an imposter
Yes.
in
Correct.
there, causing a disruption, but you are seeming to agree with their intention, but you're actually concealing yours.
Yes. You.
Okay.
Yes.
And
Yes.
but you appear friendly in a sense by
Open and trusting. Yes.
by by talking, maybe you go in there talking endlessly about your desires and goals or how you want to do this, how you want to do that, maybe give an emotional subjective experience of yours,
Hmm.
therefore you appear friendly, but your true intentions are to move it somewhere else.
Yeah, and I think this goes great with Law 4, and I'll show you the connection, because here it's saying basically talk a lot. This is what they're really saying. Saying be open, be friendly, talk a lot. The next law talks about speak less, because you'll be more mysterious, you show more power. Because if you talk a lot of the
Mhm.
times you'll either say something stupid or you'll seem more common. So if you seem more common, right? According to him, like Law 4, you won't seem as powerful. in many situations. So if you're more common, you're less of a threat. People don't
Right.
people are not scared of you. If people are not scared of you, they're going to trust you more because you're open, because you're talking about all these things of what you want to do. You're an open book, right? You're honest, right? So
So in
people
this
are going to,
scenario,
yeah, in this scenario, so people are going to trust you because first of all, you're on their team. You went to their team. You're being open, quote unquote. You're being friendly. People trust you. They're like, hey, he's an open book. I know exactly what he wants to do, and he's part of our team. I have nothing to be scared of. But the book is saying, don't mention your real intentions. Your real intentions might be ABC, but you're talking about XYZ, right? And or maybe your intentions you're talking about are tertiary or secondary, but they're not your real goals. Your real goals are really hidden. This is what he's saying.
okay, so in that scenario, it is important to talk more than talk less in a sense.
If you're trying to to push them to a different direction where they don't see you as secretive or like
Suspicious.
suspicious, mysterious, then you do the opposite of law 4, which is basically,
Right.
and the opposite of law 3. Law 3 says conceal your intentions. Here he's saying show your intentions. They're just not your real ones.
Right,
And
right. Ah, okay.
law 4 is talk less, but he's saying talk more. Because in Law 4, he says most of the time, if you talk less, you'll be seen as more powerful. But he does talk about when sometimes it's better to talk more. But we can
S-
get to that
Yeah,
later.
yeah. So disguise your dishonesty and honesty.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. Correct. Yes. Because it's true. Sometimes if you're honest, right, and
Mm-hmm.
you are open book and you talk a lot, you could use that as your advantage because people don't see you as so bad or secretive or scary. They can trust you more. But sometimes if you're too secretive and you're too quiet and you try to be like all suspicious and talk less, it could do the opposite. They won't
Yeah,
see you as
yeah,
powerful.
yeah.
They see you as someone dangerous. Hey, we can't trust them. Get away from me. And guess what?
Someone
You
unpredictable. Yeah.
unpredictable, and for certain markets and certain people, for certain environments, being unpredictable is a bad thing. And if you come off as that, you broke the way that they're gonna portray you, and a lot of times to fix that is a lot harder
Oh
than
yeah.
right.
I agree.
So this can go both ways, but in this case, he's talking about being disguising your honesty and disguising your open bookness. So yeah,
Copy. Okay.
yeah,
I don't know if you want to go to the part two of this chapter,
yeah. We can talk about a couple things there. Yeah,
unless you want to say something else
is
about.
no, I'm good with part 1. Anything you want to say about part 2 of the third law that interested you or that really caught your attention or you didn't know about or something?
I mean, it basically talks about deception is always the best strategy. Um, use that smoke
Smoke
screen.
screen.
It's like to have an unreadable poker face.
Yes.
Um, which I love to play poker, so
Yes.
kind of falls in my realm. Uh, oh, I just had a deja vu. Sorry. I mean, one thing I liked about this chapter, it talked about how one of the stories was just talking about this person wanted this other powerful person to view them, and in a sense, I don't know if the right word is, but see them as a leader, right?
Yeah.
As the new leader of their place, and he wanted to invite him to a banquet. It's called a banquet, a
Yes.
banquet of food and stuff like that. And the guy really didn't want to fall for anything, right? He was like, "I'm going to bring in my army, and we're not going to drink." But the person was very open to all that. Like, yeah, come in, bring the army, bring your bodyguards, no problem. Um, we're open to it, and seems very friendly and stuff like that. Never seemed intimidating or as like I want to force you for you to see me as your leader in a sense. I just want to seem welcoming. But behind that smile, in a sense, behind that smoke screen, was there's a lot of evilness in a sense. It was just very hard to read through
Mhm.
that. And what ended up happening was when they ended up leaving, the place that they were staying at, away from the capital, wasn't raided, but it was bought off because they had a few people that stayed back. Therefore, while they were going inside, they had other people come outside and offer them cash, offer them gold, buy their weapons, and leave them empty-handed in a sense. So
Mhm.
like kill them with kindness, those people in the back. And then when they came back, we don't have anything. Plus that those group of people are now blocking our way out. Your only way back in is going back to the capital. And it's like you're surrounded in a sense.
Mhm.
But not but there was no, it says it right here. The smoke screen is a is a weapon of great power. It in It's in page 27, sorry.
Mhm.
It enabled the gentle 𝗂𝗍 to totally destroy his enemy. 𝗂𝗍 was the king. Destroy his enemy without firing a single bullet.
Mhm.
So I just found that very um interesting in a sense where like you can hide behind a smoke screen without using aggressiveness, without using demand in a sense. You could do it through a smile. You could do it through kindness. But that smoke screen is also concealing your intention in where you are doing things behind the scenes which can cause for things to go your way or to accomplish the purpose that you want.
Mhm.
um so yeah, it was and in the part that it says keys to power about that story, in the same
Mhm.
page 27, it says, because these were Ethiopians, in the last line it says, in the Ethiopian case, it was 𝗂𝗍𝗍's misleading obsequiousness. And a lot of people don't know what obsequiousness means. It actually means being obedient or being attentive excessively, in a
Mhm.
sense. So his misleading on, okay, we'll make a banquet, but the way you want it. Oh, you want to bring your soldiers, you want to do this, you want to do that way, no problem. So saying constantly yes and yes to his, in a sense, enemy's eyes, might have the enemy might have has seen him as weak, but he wasn't
Mhm.
weak as all. So um I don't know what else to say about it, but it was more like, in a sense, um, don't necessarily take kindness as weakness, because
Mhm.
behind that kindness could be a lot of power as well. And that's what that example of the story showed.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, kindness can be used as a smokescreen, as what the
Mm-hmm.
chapter is trying to say, to lull your enemy in. Oh, they're so kind, they're so nice. They wouldn't do that to me, and then you can stab them in the back or do whatever you have to do. But I love also in the page 27, keys to power, a little bit
Mm-hmm.
before it says the best deceivers in this case, when it comes to the Ethiopian case or the yellow kids case,
Uh-huh.
utilize a bland, inconspicuous front that calls no attention to themselves. Because a lot of times, if you call attention to yourselves, it's suspicious. But if you're bland and the smoke screen is not scary, right,
Mm-hmm.
it looks harmless and it looks like something normal, it's very easy to fall in. Kindness can be one of them, um, and so many other things. Or like for example, in the Yellow Kid case, the talk about a simple business deal about selling a lodge, something that's just a normal thing, something it
Mm-hmm.
must look normal, must feel normal, or something of every day. You use that as a smokescreen. You can lull them in, and then they'll fall in very easily. And also what he mentions in page 28, the first paragraph, which is
Mm-hmm.
that this derives from a small, simple truth. People can only focus on one thing at a time. It's too difficult for people to imagine that the bland and harmless person they're dealing with is simultaneously setting up something else. So the smokescreen is so harmless, people don't have time to be thinking about every person they meet. Is he dangerous? Is he dangerous? Is he dangerous? Unless you're extremely paranoid, but it's very rare to have that.
Yeah.
So people are not going to multitask. They're going to just focus on one thing at a time. And if you bring the smoke screen that's harmless and doesn't look scary, like in the Ethiopian case, as you mentioned, it's very easy to lull someone in. And then the author will give other smoke screens that you can use, like a facial expression,
Yeah, I was just
as he
reading
talks
that. Yeah, yeah.
about. Then he
But
talks
having the poker
about
face, basically.
the poker face. Correct, the
Yeah,
poker
I can't
face.
read behind what you're showing me in a sense.
Correct. Like I can't tell what's happening if you got a good hand or not, because you look the same in everything,
Yeah.
right? Facial expression. Then he talks about psychological principles of like distraction, the direction, noble gestures. Um, and the way I like to think about this is like a card trick. And I used to do a lot of
Oh,
card tricks
match.
back in the day, right? Where it's like, for example, if I was trying to make a card disappear, or I wanted to switch a card, what again, a lot of magicians do this. What one thing you could do is like, hey, you show them another card and you say, hey, I want you to hold this card, or do you see this card? And as your attention is being misdirected to another card that probably has nothing to do with anything, but whatever, you figure out an excuse to show them the card, or to feel the card, or to put the card between their hands. You're switching the card, or you're palming the card, or you're throwing the card, or you're doing something else with the card, their card that you're trying to find, or the real thing, and you're misdirecting them because I'm using that other card that's not important as a misdirection, and that card looks harmless. It looks like nothing. So the same idea, you use a smoke screen to disguise what you're actually trying to do. And he mentions that this is actually a very hard skill to develop, that it will take time to develop this type of skill. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, facial expressions plays a part. Um, Also, the being able to in paragraph 29. I mean, sorry, page 29.
Okay.
Um, the second paragraph, it talks about another psychological weakness on which to construct a smokescreen is the tendency to mistake appearances for reality. The feeling that if someone seems to belong to your group, their belonging must be real. This habit makes the seamless blend a very effective front, and the
Yes.
trick is simple. You simply blend in those around you, which we were just talking about, the previous example that I gave, that you could join a group in a sense and like appear that you are part of that group,
Mm-hmm.
because people are going to assume that just because you're a part of the group, you're on their side, right?
Correct. It makes sense.
Which works great with spies and stuff like that. And because they talked about how during the Cold War, they had spies everywhere. Um, because it says blending is the perfect smokescreen for spying. The better you do it, the better you can conceal your intentions. Um, which
Mm-hmm.
is very true because sometimes like um we've seen this in we've seen these tactics used even in military purposes. As a spy, if you want to like send someone out to spy for you, let's say you want to send someone out to spy for you in, let's say, in the Middle East, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to use a European looking guy um, that is Caucasian in a
Mm-hmm.
sense to go spy for you as if he's part of that culture or as he looks like one of them. You're kind of going to want to throw someone who kind of looks Middle Eastern in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
someone who who probably speaks the language or knows the culture in a sense, right? They might
Correct.
not be at all that culture. They might not, that might not be their first language. That is something they learn. But just because of the appearance, right?
Mm-hmm.
The first thing that we see, oh, he looks like one of us, so he must be one of us in a
Mm-hmm.
sense, right?
Yeah.
So that can also be like a smoke screen in a sense, but in reality, that person is a spy.
Yeah. Yeah. It could be more superficial, or more ideological, or more internal, or the
Right.
belief system and so forth. So yeah, 100%.
Love that.
Love it. Love it. Okay, let's go to law 4.
Yeah, yeah. Let's move on because this law is taking forever. Uh, law. Oh, you gonna read it? Sorry.
Yeah, it says always say less than necessary.
Mm-hmm.
The judgment, when you're trying to impress people with words, the more you say, the more common you appear and the less in control. Even if you're saying something banal, it will seem original if you make it vague, open-ended, and sphinx-like. Powerful people impress and intimidate by saying less. The more you say, the more likely you are to say something foolish. when I read this, me personally, I thought of actually certain movie characters, right? Where a lot of the times a villain or a superhero, if they don't say much, but when they do say something, it's powerful. And I'll give you a couple examples.
I'm
Batman, I thought of
Batman.
Batman. He doesn't really say a lot, but when he does say something, it's powerful and it's
Right.
mysterious. I also thought of, for example, I don't know if you ever saw the movie No Country for Old Men. Phenomenal movie. You would love it actually. No Country for Old Men. The villain, his name was Anton Kigor. He is menacing in that movie, and when he speaks, he's very specific on what he says, and then he stops. And there's a scene in the movie where he decides if he's gonna kill someone or not, uh, with the flip of a coin, and he doesn't speak much,
Hmm.
and it's very scary. And the last example is the character Art the Clown from the movie Terrifier. I mean, I know you haven't seen it, but I saw some
No.
of those movies. The clown that kills people, right? And he doesn't speak at all in any of the movies. He does not talk. He just does action. But because he doesn't talk, whatever he does do is so much more powerful and scary and so much more
Yeah.
intimidating because you don't know why he's doing something. But people that say less, according to this law, seem more powerful and more mysterious, and they convey more fear and power. So yeah.
Interesting. So you brought up Batman, which is interesting. Batman doesn't say much, but when he says something, it is very powerful and it sticks to you.
Mm-hmm.
Another famous superhero that is the quite opposite, but still has a very following, a big following. Wouldn't that be like Spider-Man? In a sense, because Spider-Man is very talkative
Yes.
and he says a lot
Nervous.
of things, nervous, anxious, but he's likable. I mean, so is Batman likable, but it's a two different type of likes in a sense.
Well, people love Spider-Man. Like they can relate to him. Like, I love you, Spider-Man. And when people see Spider-Man, they're like, "Yay!" Right? They're like so happy to see it. But the villains, when
But
they see Spider-Man, they're not scared. But
right, they see him as a joke.
as a joke, like you're just a kid because he talks a lot, he babbles, he says
Yeah,
stupid
he
things.
talking. Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
because he is a high school student, right? In the comics.
Well, yeah, 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 yeah.
But
Well,
Batman is taken a lot more serious.
everyone was like, shit.
And even and
Batman's here.
and even sometimes like he's kind of scary even when he's trying to save people. Right? He seems very powerful and intimidating, but he doesn't say much as well. You know what I mean?
Right, right, right.
But according to this law, it really boils down to most of the time, the Robert Greene's saying, the less you say, the better the outcome is going to be for you. Or you can portray yourself as being more powerful. And I love the example he gave of the story. I'm not gonna go over the whole story, but the example of this guy Coriolanus, who was this warrior, and then people
Earlier.
and people saw him. People barely saw him or spoke to him. So on the battlefield, he was scary. But when he got into politics, he spoke too much. People didn't agree with him.
Yeah.
He was arrogant, and at
Hmm.
the end, he gets killed. The people went against him, and they convinced the Senate, the other politicians to kill him, and then he got killed, right? Because he was talking too much. He didn't, he said too much that upset the people and they killed him. So the lesson, right, is you want to be a person of few words. Because if you talk too much, there's a higher chance of you messing up or saying dumb things or things that don't make sense. Right. But if you say less and people know that about you, they're going to take every word you say, they're going to really pay attention, like this other story of Louis the 14th, where it says that
Hmm.
his most famous quote was "L'état c'est moi," which is "I am the state." He would barely speak, but when he would talk, people would really pay attention to what he had to say because he wouldn't say more. So yeah, anything you want to add to that?
No, I really like these stories that they gave. Um,
Do you want me to say something else?
no, no,
On my
no.
end? Okay,
I was just reading the interpretation of the story because I have a few things highlighted here.
okay, go.
Um, yeah, I mean, the less you speak, the more power you can have in a sense, right?
Yes.
And in the first example, we see how he spoke too much. Therefore, um, if he would have never spoke and revealed his true feelings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or in a sense, conceal his intention or
Mm-hmm.
conceal his feelings, he like the interpretation says, he could have maintained his powerful aura because he was coming from the army. He had scars from war of being in the Roman wars, and a lot of people related to him. So when he spoke, he could have had a lot of aura, but because he
Mm-hmm.
spoke so much and in a sense overspoke and started talking about his feelings towards others and stuff like that, is where he lost the people.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, even it says the human tongue is a beast that few can master,
That's true.
which is which is very true, right? It is not something easy to be able to know when to talk and not to talk. And even in this example of the Louis the 14th, when they would speak to him, he would just say, "I shall see."
Mm-hmm.
After, because they had to set up a group and a representative of each group, and after he heard them, he was like, "I shall see."
And that's it. And then
You
just
know,
leave.
and then everyone was like, "Oh man, what can I say for him to say more?" And he would never say more.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering actually if you agreed with this quote that it says right under the interpretation. It says, "It is even more damaging for a minister to say foolish things than to do them."
Mm.
So it's basically implying is that saying stuff can harm you more than actually doing it. I guess, would that be in the presence of everyone else? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not 100% sure if this Cardinal de Retz is right.
I mean, listen, just because someone
Just because someone
says
says
something
something.
or quotes it, it doesn't mean it's completely true. But maybe in a way, we could say that yeah, it could be more dangerous because sometimes you don't say anything, but you do something. Maybe a lot of people, they won't find out, so there's no harm. Or sometimes it's I don't know if you heard the expression. Sometimes it's easier to say sorry than to ask for permission, right?
Yes, es mejor pedir
Because
perdón que pedir por permiso. Yes.
because you already did it, so it's done already. So you're like, listen, I'm so sorry, and you can apologize and really mean it, versus ask for permission. Because if you ask for permission, they say no, but you still do it, then you're in double trouble. Versus, hey, I already did it. I didn't know I wasn't supposed to do it, but I did it already. I'm so sorry. It's easier to ask for forgiveness and to plead and to beg and say sorry than to convince someone, hey, I want to do this when they don't want to do it. So maybe it is, yes, it could harm the reputation of someone if you start saying dumb things, because the people can latch onto your dumb thing, and they can keep going back to say, hey, you said this, so this is your real intention, you're dangerous, and it can accuse you, and it can go in so many different ways. But I think also it's because on page 34, the
Mm-hmm.
author, he keeps saying that power is about a game of appearances, right? So the less you say, the more powerful or scary or mysterious you are, and your silence will make other people uncomfortable, right? So if your silence which is true in a conversation, silence makes people very uncomfortable, and that's why people try to like just say things to fill in the
Make
gap
like small talk or stuff like that.
so that there's no silence. But a lot of times
Yeah.
silence is a good thing, but
I love
silence
silence.
makes
Uh-huh.
people uncomfortable. So people will throw in things, and sometimes they give themselves away, or they start to say dumb things. But if you can compose yourself, with, right, while you're not saying anything, then you have the upper hand a lot of the times. Not always, but a lot of the times. So in a situation like that where you're saying less and there's silence, but they're giving themselves out, or they're trying to fill in the gap, guess what happens? According to this quote, Cardinal de Retz, right? You're not
Mm-hmm.
saying nothing foolish. You're not saying anything, so you can't say anything foolish, which is true. If you shut up or you're not talking, you can't say anything dumb at all. So you're not gonna fall for that, right? And if you don't say foolish things, there won't be any damage to you. So again, all of this quote unquote, it kind of connects. It kind of connects. And I would also say, um, where is it? They give an example of Andy Warhol, who was this famous,
Hmm.
famous young artist. And it's interesting. He wouldn't really talk about himself or about his art, or he barely spoke. So he was more
Hmm.
mysterious when he was on interviews. So his art became a lot more valuable. And today, his art is very valuable. So if you have a piece of Andy Warhol painting, it's worth a lot of money. But what did he do? All he barely spoke about himself, and he was very careful with what he said. So he was more mysterious. So more people were talking about him, right?
Right. He even there says he once told a friend, "I learned that you actually have more power when you shut up."
Which is true, and even a lot of different religions will say this. It's like if you shut up or you don't say anything, you won't sin, you won't break anyone's feelings, you won't start any fire or any verbal conflicts. The act of shutting up can be so beneficial to your soul and to your body, right? And this is one way. You won't say anything foolish, and you won't get killed, or you won't get betrayed, or people will see you as more mysterious or as more powerful. So we see so many benefits of applying law number four, but it doesn't always work, though. It doesn't always work.
Right. You have to. I was going to say that it depends when when you're going to do that, right? Because we talked
Correct.
about in the previous example how it was important to speak more to accomplish a goal that you wanted.
Yes.
But there are moments as well that you should shut up, where like saying more is actually saying less. Um,
Saying more, saying less.
um, what I meant by that
Yeah, yeah,
is
yeah,
like
yeah.
you're saying more, but it's like your words are
Harming
getting
you.
nowhere in a sense, right?
Yeah.
You know, there's always the expression "do more, say less," right? Say less,
Yes.
do more, right? Um, because even in the paragraph, well, not only you appear more profound when you say less, you appear more mysterious as well.
Correct.
But like we were talking, you in paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, page 35, it says
Mm-hmm.
like you, which I'm going to repeat something you said. The less risk you run of saying something foolish, even dangerous, and you even said it to get killed. And it just
Yes.
provides a brief example of someone in Russia. I think it was Nicholas, um, who was on death row in a sense, right?
Yes.
And they were going to, what does it say? They were going to cut off his neck, right?
Yeah.
Yes, he was going to get that type of execution. But the
Correct.
thing is
On the
that,
gallows. On the gallows. Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
The thing is that when they, um, when it was about to happen, the rope broke. Y el de bruto, right,
Mm-hmm.
decided to say, "You see, in Russia, they don't know how to do anything properly, not even how to make rope."
Hmm.
And the interesting part of it is that um, during in Russia during that time, during the story that they're talking about, it says that any rope that was broken in a sense, or like
Mm-hmm.
it didn't actually kill the person, usually that execution was pardoned.
Mm-hmm.
But when that was being brought up to the palace and they were about to pardon it, he asked the messenger, "Did this person say something else?"
Mm-hmm.
And when he repeated the words that he had previously said about the rope, about Russia not being able to do anything,
Mm-hmm.
he broke the pardon and said, "Let us prove contrary." Therefore, they did it again, and this time the rope didn't break.
Yep.
So, lesson learned: shut up. Right? You were able to
Basically.
survive and continue living, but you wanted to say, "Oh, you see, I was right. They don't know how to do shit here." "Oh,
Mm-hmm.
really? We'll show you otherwise." And it costed his life in a sense, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Um, and it says very interestingly, one thing that this guy could have learned is that once the words are out, you cannot take them back. Keep them
Mm-hmm.
under control. Be particularly careful with sarcasm.
Mm.
The momentary satisfaction you gain with your biting words will be outweighed by the price you pay.
Yeah.
So be very careful with the words you say. because they could come and bite you right back in the ass. You know.
Yeah, 100%. I would also mention because at the end of the chapter, which is the reversal, and I'm glad the author put this, Robert Greene,
Right,
where
because you
he
just
shows
spoke
the
about it too.
opposite,
Yeah.
where he's like, this works for so many times, but there's also times where it doesn't work. And it's interesting enough, he mentioned that one of the worst times to use this law is with your superiors, because if you try to be vague or ambiguous and mysterious, that might scare them, and they might mention interpretations that might not be so good for you. And if they have so much power, they could fire you, kill you, demote
Like
you, make
like
your life
I can't,
impossible,
like the superior would be like, oh, I can't read him, right?
or I
I
can't
don't know what
trust
he's
them.
up
Yeah.
to. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
And then it also mentions uh silence and saying less than necessary must be practiced with caution. This is page 36.
Yeah.
Then and in the right situation, it mentions it is occasionally wiser, and I'm going to connect this with law 3. It is occasionally wiser to imitate the court jester, which is the clown, the fool,
Yeah.
who plays the fool but knows he is smarter than the king. He talks and talks and talks and entertains, and no one suspects that he is more than just a fool. Words can sometimes act as a kind of a smokescreen for any deception you might practice. Because it's true, if you're the opposite and you're not mysterious and you're just talking and you're funny, you're cracking jokes, people feel comfortable with someone like that. And they might not necessarily categorize you as someone powerful and scary. But if you're trying to go up the ladder at your company, at your job, and you're dealing with people that are higher than you, more rich than you, and you're trying to be more scary or more ambiguous or mysterious, or you're trying to apply law 4, as you mentioned, they don't know you. You could be unpredictable. I can't read him. I don't like that. I fear scared. I fear him because maybe he's trying to do something suspicious, and maybe you are, right? And it's like we cannot have someone like this. We need someone more predictable. We need someone who doesn't scare. So he's saying if you do the opposite, where maybe you use more self-deprecating humor, like you act more of a fool, you talk more, and the way you could talk more is by showing your intentions, maybe just not your real intentions. Like law number 3 says, you are not as scary. You won't be scary. But once you're already at that level, or you don't have these types of obstacles in your way, then you can use law 4 with no problem. No problem. There is no problem because there's no obstacle. But in this case, again, I don't think all these laws you can always apply it as he mentions. There are times where you have to do the opposite. As you mentioned, disguise your honesty, or like disguise your dishonesty, or like you're doing the opposite of what he's saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, you could use all of these laws through good, through bad. I find it remarkable how they all connect to one another. There's a reversal to it.
Yes.
Um, there's examples of transgression of observation, when to use it, when not to use it. So it's it's a lot, but I think one thing I've been able to learn that through law 3 and 4 is that concealing your intentions, it's good depending on what your intention is, I guess, right? Taking away any type of moral codes, anything. It just depends what you want to accomplish. Depending on what you want to accomplish, you should either reveal or concede, and not concede, or conceal your intentions. Sorry. Or at the same time, it's important to talk or not talk, depending on the situation that you are in. Um, there's the last line that talks about in the reversal that says, this is the reverse of the silent policy employed by the powerful. By talking more and making yourself appear weaker and less intelligent than your mark, you could practice deception with greater ease. I think this is just one way to make you realize that uh, if you want more power, um, and you want to, in a sense, as the author is writing, you want to more power and to become more manipulative with things. There are just ways to do it, either through silence or through words.
Yeah, I definitely would say that. And I'll probably end with this, like the conclusion. I would say after reading Law 3 and 4, especially if people are going to be reading this book, I really think people should reread each chapter a couple times to truly understand like the nuances of when to use it and not to use it. Because
Hmm.
if you mess up and you use this law when you're not supposed to, it can completely mess you up in life, right?
Yeah.
But what I would say is this: these Law 3 and 4 are definitely, you could use for good or bad, definitely, but they are realistic, very realistic when you can use this to your advantage to make more money, to get the better job, to do better in dating, in conversations, at a job interview, in a networking event. There's so many situations. So I think if a person really just sits down, looks at their values, and looks at how can I use, for example, law 3 and 4 to my advantage, and they really think about it, right? You'll notice that yes, there's ways to do this on both ends of the spectrum, but these do work and they will help you become a better human being, a better communicator, a better negotiator, a better parent, a better friend. And at the end of the day, that's what we're all about. We're just trying to improve in our lives.